You were born wrong. Not in a way anyone will notice at first. In fact, the people who see you for the first time will do the opposite of notice something wrong. They will go completely silent for a moment, and then they will reach for their phones. You are white. Not the yellowish cream of most pale animals. White like fresh snow. White like polished marble. Striped in dark charcoal. Eyes the color of a winter sky. And the moment any human sees you, they stop breathing for half a second. They will call you magnificent, majestic, one of a kind. They will say you look like something out of a myth. They're right about that last part, because just like a myth, the animal they're imagining does not actually exist. And the animal you actually are, that story starts the moment you take your first breath. You are not the only cub born that day. There are others. The keepers already know which ones will make it onto the public side of the facility and which ones will not. It is not complicated math. The cubs with obvious problems, the ones with spines that curve too severely, the ones whose legs cannot bear their own weight, the ones who cannot nurse properly, they get noted in the records with careful, neutral language. Non-viable, not suitable for display, humanely managed. They disappear quietly, and no one outside the facility ever knows they existed. You are one of the ones who make it to the display side. You are healthy enough, white enough, striking enough. The problems in your body are real, but they are subtle. The kind that take months or years to fully show themselves. The kind that do not ruin a photograph. You are the lucky one. Try to remember that whenever things get bad. You are maybe 3 weeks old. A handler lifts you off the ground. Warm hands, the wrong smell, not your mother, and holds you up toward a glass wall. On the other side of the glass, something you have no words for. People, dozens of them. They press forward. They make a sound. You have heard your mother's low chuff, the rustle of hay, the hum of the facility's ventilation. This is nothing like any of that. This is noise shaped like excitement, and it is aimed entirely at you. You squint. Your eyes are already doing something that feels strange. A slow side-to-side drift, your head moving with it, your brain trying to lock onto a fixed point and failing. You do not know yet that both of your optic nerves run to the same hemisphere instead of splitting the signals evenly. You do not know that the wiring was wrong from the start. All you know is that the faces behind the glass keep shifting, doubling, refusing to hold still. The handler brings you closer to the glass. The flashes get brighter. From the other side, you look hypnotic, that gentle rocking of your head. Tourists will describe it as meditative, regal, otherworldly. You have never tried to hunt anything, but if you did, if a live animal stood 6 meters in front of you right now, you would most likely misjudge the lunge. A Bengal tiger's whole existence depends on one precise calculation, the exact instant to commit, to cross that distance, to land the strike. Too early and the prey escapes. Too late and the prey escapes. The margin is razor thin, and it depends entirely on the eyes reading distance correctly. Yours cannot do that. Before you have ever eaten a real meal, before you have ever walked further than the length of your enclosure, the thing that makes you a tiger has already been quietly disabled. But you are white, so nobody asks questions about the eyes. In the first weeks, you stay close to your mother. She is orange. That is the first thing you would notice about her if your eyes could hold a steady image. And even with blurred depth, you can see that the world she came from was not the same color as you. She still moves like a tiger. She still scans the perimeter, still crouches low when the facility goes quiet at night, still flinches at the ventilation system's stutter like it might be something alive. The wildness is still somewhere inside her, just with nowhere to go. You try to follow her. Your hind legs load unevenly. You cannot feel it yet, but the way your spine curves a few degrees more than it should means your weight distributes across your hips at the wrong angle. The vet will note it in the records in a few months. Mild spinal deviation, expected for the lineage. They will write monitor and move on. You stumble. Your mother chuffs softly and you right yourself. Outside the glass wall, someone in the visitor queue points and says, "The baby one!" And the whole row of people turns to look. Here is something nobody will ever explain to you directly. But if you could read the breeding records mounted on the wall outside your enclosure, you would see a name repeating, Mohan. Father, grandfather, great-grandfather, the same name folding back through your family tree like a word someone kept writing over the same line until the paper thinned. Mohan was a white tiger cub found in India in 1951 after his mother was shot by a Maharaja on a hunting trip. The man kept him. He tried breeding Mohan to unrelated tigresses first, normal orange tigers, and those pairings produced no white cubs, because the white coat only appears when both parents carry the recessive gene, and there was only one known white tiger. So they tried something else. They bred Mohan to his own daughter, then to her offspring, and the gene appeared again. White, beautiful, photographable. The pattern was set. Every white tiger bred after Mohan followed the same logic. Narrow the bloodline until the trait appears. Father to daughter, brother to sister, cousin to cousin. The genetic pool was never widened. It was only folded back on itself, tighter with every generation. Every white tiger alive today, in every zoo, every wildlife park, every roadside attraction on Earth, carries Mohan's genetics. Not similar genetics, Mohan's actual genetics. Your entire species, such as it is, traces back to a single animal who lived in a single Maharaja's collection 70 years ago. Your parents were related, so were their parents, so were theirs. The gene that makes your coat white is the same pathway that scrambled your optic nerves. The coat and the damage are not separate things. They are the same thing. One morning, a bird gets into your enclosure. Something small, a sparrow, a myna, quick and ordinary, squeezed through a gap in the mesh near the roof. You track it. Something ancient fires in your body. The crouch, the weight shift, the coiled stillness of a predator calculating distance. The bird hops along the concrete lip of your pool. You hold, you watch. Your head rocks once, twice, the image refusing to fully resolve. You lunge. You land half a body length short. Your chin hits the concrete edge of the pool. The bird is gone before you even finish the motion. You stand for a long moment in the place where it was. Pause on the wet concrete, breathing. Then you walk back to the center of your enclosure. A healthy Bengal tiger in the wild fails hunts too. Most tigers fail more than they succeed, and that is with fully functional vision. Yours is not fully functional. The margin you are working with has been narrowed before you ever began. In an hour, the keeper will arrive with your feeding, pre-killed, pre-portioned, drops through a slot in the fence while you watch from 10 feet away. There is nothing to calculate, nothing to stalk, nothing to miss. You were built for a problem that will never be presented to you, and for the one time it was, you missed. They take you from your mother at around 8 weeks. Hand raising makes you calmer around humans. Calmer means easier to manage. Easier to manage means closer to the glass. Closer to the glass means better photographs, higher visitor satisfaction, more revenue. The logic is clean and economic and has absolutely nothing to do with you. Your mother is loud for 3 days. She moves the perimeter of her enclosure in a different pattern than her usual pacing. Faster, less rhythmic, stopping at the corner where you used to sleep and standing there for long minutes. Nose working, not moving. The keepers note her elevated stress. They give her enrichment items, a frozen meat block, a new scent trail, a log soaked in unfamiliar animal smell. She ignores all of it and keeps returning to the same corner. She is a tiger and she has tiger instincts, and those instincts tell her something is missing from her territory. She is right. She will search for it for days before the searching slows. She will be bred again in a few months. The next litter will sell the next round of tickets. The corner will be occupied again, briefly, and then it will be empty again. The cycle does not have an exit. You grow. Your white coat does what it was designed to do. It draws attention. What it was not designed to do is everything else a tiger coat is supposed to do. Orange Bengal tigers disappear into dry grass. They become part of the light and shadow of a forest floor. White does not disappear. White announces. White flashes across a clearing like a signal flare. In the wild, a white tiger would be visible to prey at twice the normal distance. Rivals would spot it across a valley. It would survive exactly as long as its luck held before natural selection quietly removed it from the gene pool. Nature did not want the white coat to persist. Humans found it and decided otherwise. Inside the enclosure, none of this matters. You are not trying to hunt. You are trying to exist. And what existence looks like by the time you are 2 years old is a path. 10 steps, turn. 10 steps, turn. You have worn the ground down. The concrete has a groove now, subtle but real, shaped by your footfall over thousands of repetitions. Your paw pads are cracked at the edges from the rough surface. The nails that used to end in clean curves are blunted from the concrete. You do not pace because you are restless in a simple way. You pace because every instinct in your body says move, cover ground, patrol, mark, search, and those instincts have nowhere to land except this 10-step groove. A Bengal tiger in the wild patrols a territory of up to 40 square miles. It follows scent trails left by other animals. It makes decisions. It has a life that is physically enormous and mentally demanding, where the body and the mind work together on real problems. You have an enclosure smaller than a tennis court and a feeding schedule that never changes. What happens to a mind built for complexity when it is given nothing complex to do? It does this. The same path, worn smooth by its own repetition. The groove is called a stereotypy, a behavior that forms when an animal's environment cannot meet its psychological needs. It is not exercise. It is not play. It is what a broken thermostat looks like when the heat has nowhere to go. From outside the glass, visitors say it looks majestic, like a restless king, like something powerful, barely contained. You walk the same 10 steps so often the ground gives up before you do. At some point, you are moved. Facilities trade and sell animals based on commercial need. Maybe the zoo where you started has acquired a newer white tiger, younger, more photogenic. Maybe a smaller park offered a placement fee. The economics of your existence have never been personal. You are loaded into a transport crate. It smells like disinfectant and something older underneath it. Fear sweat and stress hormones from every animal that made the same journey before you. The crate is bolted shut. The truck moves for hours. When the crate finally opens, the light is wrong. The air is wrong. Different humidity, different food smell, different sounds from whatever neighbors share the building. The new enclosure is smaller than the last one. The floor is a different texture of concrete. You scan the perimeter. Your head rocks as your eyes try to map the new space. There is no scent you recognize anywhere. A Bengal tiger in the wild spends years building an intimate knowledge of its territory. Every trail marker, every seasonal shift in prey movement, every boundary line. It is a life's work. You are starting over in a space that takes 30 seconds to cross. You find the longest straight line available. You start pacing it. This will happen again, maybe more than once. Each time, a new facility, a new enclosure, a new set of sounds at night that your body does not know how to read. Some of these places are better, some are worse. One smells like mildew and the water in the pool has turned a faint green. The visitors at that one stand closer to the glass and take longer to look away, like they cannot quite believe they are seeing something this rare in a place this small. You are always surprising to them. They are never surprising to you. They are just more faces, more flashes, more noise aimed at your coat. The joints start to stiffen somewhere around age 8. The hips have been loading wrong for years and it shows now. Not in any dramatic way, but in the pause. The moment before stepping down from the concrete shelf where you sleep, where you used to drop down without thinking, you now stop. You shift your weight forward, you test the angle, then you step. The vet increases the frequency of visits. The spine note from years ago is reviewed again. There are now follow-up notes. The inflammation is managed. The diet is adjusted slightly. You are given a padded mat in one corner of the enclosure, which you ignore for 2 weeks before starting to sleep on it. Your coat still draws visitors. It yellows faintly at the edges now in certain light. Barely noticeable, but there. The way old photographs go slightly warm at the corners. The eyes cloud at the outer edges, a film gathering slowly. The head weaving is slower than it used to be, but it is still there. Your brain is still running the same loop it has always run, still trying to find stable ground in an image that is never fully resolved. A child presses her palm against the glass one afternoon and you stop pacing and turn toward her. She goes very still. Then she gasps and grabs her mother's sleeve and says this is the most beautiful animal she has ever seen in her life. You look at the glass. Your eyes drift. Your head rocks once. You go back to pacing. You have spent your entire life being called magnificent by people who had no idea what they were looking at. You never once used your eyes the way a tiger's eyes were designed to be used. You never once moved through space the way a tiger's body was built to move. You never learned a territory. You never chose a path. You never successfully hunted anything. You never once lived a single day of the life your instincts were engineered for. What you had was a coat, and the coat did exactly what it was supposed to do. It made made people stop. It made them reach for their phones. It made them come back with their children and their grandchildren and pay to stand in front of your glass and feel something they called wonder. You were born looking like a gift, but the coat was never free. It was never natural. It was never a wonder of the wild. It was a price tag, written in the same gene that bent your spine, crossed your eyes, weakened your blood, took you from your mother, and wore a groove into your floor. The people on the other side of the glass got the wonder. You just happened to be the one born to pay for it.